Welcome to the Invest Greater Orlando 2022 official virtual launch conference. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of our sponsors and partners that helped make this event possible. We will begin the event shortly. It's almost showtime. We will be starting the conference momentarily, but I want to make a note that the Q&A feature will be available to the audience during the panel discussions, so please be sure to send in your questions for our panelists.
Capital Analytics is a unique multimedia platform that specializes in business intelligence on dynamic markets through our digital and print reports, high-impact conferences and events, as well as top-level digital content through our video platform, Invest Insights. We are unique in our approach in that over a 6-month research period, we interview over 200 local CEOs to put together the information that becomes the contents of each 200-page annual report. Our platform takes a deep dive into the most important economic sectors to promote the markets in which we operate to the national and global investor, entrepreneur, and business person. But it is not only the annual business guides we produce. Capital Analytics hosts high-impact leadership summits where executives convene to discuss the latest obstacles and how to best tackle them. Next, our subscribers stay up to date through our weekly newsletters. We cover hot topics and key issues relevant to the day-to-day business, keeping our subscribers to the annual reports continually up to date. We also put a voice and face to the words in our Invest Insights video series. Hear perspectives on the markets we cover and why they are advantageous from the people making it happen right now. And lastly, the Capital Analytics podcast, where our listeners take us on the go to stay informed of the latest business advice from those at the helm. At Capital Analytics, we know great words come from great minds, and so we bring you real insights.
Good morning, Orlando. My name is Abby Malone, and I'm the President and CEO of Capital Analytics. Welcome to the launch of our Invest Orlando 2022 report, where we provide an in-depth analysis of what makes the greater Orlando region tick, where are the opportunities, and what challenges lie ahead. Thank you all for being here today. It is an exciting time in Orlando. Many would point to the fact that tourism is roaring back after the tumult of the pandemic. But it's more than just that. Orlando, in fact, is increasingly more than its tourism backbone. Make no mistake, tourism is vital to the region's economy, but the makeup of the economic structure here is diversifying. We have aerospace, health, financial, real estate, education, advanced manufacturing, and other sectors that are growing the region's economic resilience. It feels as though a new era is beginning, one where potential lurks around every corner, which is certainly a welcome development after so much time spent in the pandemic wilderness. People and businesses are taking notices too. Orlando is among the leaders in net population inflows among the country's biggest cities. Unemployment remains below the U.S. average, and housing prices, while rising just like everywhere else, are still favorable comparable to other major centers like Miami. But with growth comes, of course, the challenges. We all know very clearly that diversity, equity, and inclusion are integral components for the success of any company or organization, and many are moving to ensure that they're inside the issue rather than on the outside looking in. Our first panel will tackle exactly this issue head-on, discussing how we can leverage the economic growth Orlando's experiencing to ensure everybody has an equitable stake. Another challenge is a growing concern for everyone is macroeconomic and geopolitical uncertainty we face not just here in Orlando, but across the country. Inflation is rising, interest rates are going up, and some are questioning if the Federal Reserve can engineer a soft landing for the economy. Further afield, the macro and geopolitical picture is blemished by the war in the Ukraine. Our second panel will look at what the future holds on the investment front as we face these issues. Overall, however, when we look at the picture of Orlando, what we see is a great deal of optimism. At this time of change, as we merge into a post-COVID economy, it's particularly important to look ahead, leaning on the lessons learned from the past 2 years. At Capital Analytics, like so many other businesses, we saw the pandemic as an opportunity to change things up. Business intelligence is now more vital than ever, whether it's print, digital, or virtual conferences like this. First, we expanded our talented team at Capital Analytics and have entered into 11 new markets in this post-pandemic climate. Pittsburgh, Nashville, Minneapolis-St. Paul, Raleigh-Durham, San Antonio, Dallas, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, and North and Central Jersey, bringing our economic reporting library to just under 20 metro areas. Next, our Invest Insights video platform has exploded. We brought our network of high-level CEOs in front of the camera to share with our audience their views and advice on everything from creativity in light of the pandemic to cryptocurrency and NFTs' long-term effect on banking norms, the Great Resignation and retaining and attracting talent, and so much more. We expanded that video platform to a podcast so that our readers and our viewers can listen to our informative content on the go. In all of our discussions with hundreds of business and political leaders over the past year, a common thread is how far we've come in such a short amount of time, how advances that were expected to take years have happened in months. Today, Orlando stands as a leading example of what it takes to not only grow stronger, but to grow better. We have quite a lineup for you today. However, before our discussions begin, I'd like to take a moment and thank the sponsors of today's event. Our gold sponsors, Florida Blue, Fountainhead, and One Florida Bank. Our silver sponsor, TD Bank. And our honored partners, FAMU College of Law, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, KMI International, NAI Realvest, Space Coast, Skyway Capital Markets, the East Orlando Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Federation of Florida, iDrive Chamber of Commerce, the Orlando Hospitality Alliance, and the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. It is with your support that we can continue to bring high-level speakers and content to the Orlando metro area. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our opening keynote, Casey Barnes, the Vice President of Business Development for the Orlando Economic Partnership. Casey, please turn on your audio and your video. I think he's still entering. Casey, how are you this morning?
Hey, good morning.
Pleasure to have you.
Hey, thank you, Abby, and wonderful, wonderful introduction. Still working through the first world issues that we experience now in the virtual world.
No problem.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, everything is perfect. I'll let you take it away.
Excellent. Thank you again, and wonderful introduction, and what a joy it is to participate with you in the Invest Greater Orlando 2022 Virtual Launch Conference. What a great group of panelists that you have today. I see a lot of familiar faces on the agenda, including Orlando Economic Partnership Chair-elect Tony Jenkins of Florida Blue, and Partnership Board Member Gabby Ortegoni of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Metro Orlando. I'm positive that the information that you'll glean today from these experts will be critical to helping our leaders in the Orlando business community continue to build upon our strengths and help advance our mission of broad-based prosperity. So on behalf of the partnership, its board of directors, investors, and the Orlando business community, I want to thank Capital Analytics and all of today's sponsors in the business community for their support. Really appreciate all of you joining to help seize the moment and advance broad-based prosperity in our region. So while we continue to meet in this virtual environment, we have come a long way in our region from the onset of the pandemic. And while the pandemic has forced us all to accelerate and adapt and shift our focus to the varied challenges that have arisen, the one thing has remained constant: our continued growth. In fact, our region has been growing at more than 1,000 people a week for 50 years. Think about that for a second. And for the foreseeable future, our region will add another 1,500 people a week. Despite the pandemic's heavy impact, our efforts to respond and mitigate this has remained coordinated and constant. And today, our region is strong and only getting stronger. So 6 of our top regions in industry have surpassed pre-pandemic levels of employment, including our region's top industry by employment, business and professional services, not tourism. So this evolution in the diversity of our economy is part of a trend of the world's top and most innovative companies choosing Orlando. This trend was not slowed by the pandemic. In fact, it accelerated. Since April of last year, the Orlando Economic Partnership has worked with more than 30 new businesses to expand to the region. They've invested more than $1.5 billion and added over 7,000 jobs to our economy with an average wage of $88,000 per year. You can see a few of those expansion projects listed here. And this growth and diversification of our economy has led Orlando to be ranked number 2 in the nation for large metros and job creation, and 22's best city to start a business by WalletHub. So throughout Orlando's history, we've promoted and branded our community as many, many things. For example, we've been known as a location for citrus and cattle and agriculture, as a hub for innovation, the world's most popular and fun family destination, a sports magnet, a place for meetings and conventions. And we've worked to attract many types of businesses, residents, and visitors alike. There's been lots of campaigns, and research shows that people consider living in places that they've visited and they've had a great experience. So it's hard not to imagine a CEO who visits Orlando for a convention or a family vacation would consider moving their family here and their company. So tourism and businesses, those audiences interact. And in order to have a more impact on a consistent basis, we have created a compelling message on the reasons to visit, move, or start a business in the Orlando region. And with the evolution of our region, the shifts in travel and how people work, changes brought on the pandemic and changes in the global economy, we believe now is the perfect time to bring together our collective resources to tell an authentic, holistic, and exciting story about who we are as a region. So for the first time ever, our destination will have one voice, one look, and one brand that we take to market. If someone told you about this place and the things and everything else that makes it special, you might not believe it's real, but it is. Orlando is unbelievably real. So while we're speaking with one brand, one voice, our story will be spoken directly to our target audiences in high-cost locations like California, New York and New Jersey, Chicago. Our audiences include C-suite and business executives, site selection consultants, talent. We're also talking with meeting planners and attendees, leisure visitors, and travel professionals. So this campaign unleashes our synergistic relationship with Visit Orlando and our partners and investors. It's so exciting to unleash this brand new brand. We are also changing the way we market the Orlando region. In addition to new messaging and creative through Unbelievably Real, we're leveraging a new and entirely new experience for our target audience. We've partnered with Unity, one of the best gaming companies on planet Earth, to create the first of its kind digital twin for an entire region. This digital twin will be unlike anything that's ever been created before. Unlike a lot of cities that might have a digital twin that might capture a downtown, Orlando's project will map the entire 800 square miles of our region. That's 40 square miles with super high fidelity, including the Space Coast, amusement parks, and Orlando International Airport. It'll allow us to be used as a model to show off this region to businesses and developers interested in investing in our region. So currently, when we sell a company on relocating or establishing in our region, we use a slide deck like everybody else with bullet points. And then we get in the car and we drive around in a van or something and see all these different areas. It's not exactly the experience that a CEO and executives may want to have. But with a digital twin, we change all of that. It will help us with scenario planning. We will be able to use real-time data on models that can be used for a variety of projects, demonstrating how traffic flows will ripple across the region, how existing infrastructure will hold up against the impact of growth and climate change and more. One of the many things that make Orlando unbelievably real is it's home to a flourishing cluster of companies that are building key technologies fundamental to the metaverse, making Orlando key to the meta center. At the intersection of entertainment, defense, tech, as well as modeling, simulation, and training, our region is at the bleeding edge of augmented and virtual reality, artificial intelligence, gaming, Internet of Things, 3D reconstruction. All of those things put together make up the metaverse. And there's no better place on planet Earth to create meta than in Orlando. Our region is where the metaverse is brought into the physical world, with Disney and Universal immersing guests in virtual worlds through experiential entertainment and riders. And educational ecosystem partners like UCF and Full Sail are world-class producing talent in this space. I love this photo, and it captures our amenities and connections and innovation to Orlando and our thriving economy. Who would have imagined 5 years ago Could you have seen a rocket launch from a brand new MLS soccer stadium just blocks away from a unified Valencia College and UCF downtown campus, creative village with over 7,000 students, and a downtown thriving innovation district where you can dine on soon to be Michelin star rated and James Beard award winning restaurants or see a Broadway performance in a $750 million performing arts center. Those are some of the things that make Orlando unbelievably real. And to many, Orlando represents the happiest place on earth. To us, Orlando is the best place on the planet to invest, live, learn, work, and play. Thank you, Invest Greater Orlando, for bringing us all together to learn from today's expert panelists and from Peter Cranis, Executive Director of the Florida Space Coast Office of Tourism. I can't wait to see everyone in person next year. Thank you.
And if you'll just wait for 1 second, Casey. One second, we're just having some technical difficulty.
First world issues.
Of course. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here today. Give me 1 more second. Sorry, we are just handling some issues.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're just returning on the computer, the camera, and we'll be right with you. Casey, thank you so much for your beautiful smiling face right now. And thank you, audience, for your patience. We're just getting the camera up and running. I can hear it turning on as we speak. And here we go. Great, we have visual.
Hey, Max.
Hi, how you doing? I appreciate everyone's patience today. Awesome. All right, well, good morning, everyone. Again, I want to go ahead and I want to thank you, Casey, for opening today's event. We appreciate all the support you've given to the second edition, and thank you for setting the tone on an exciting and forward-looking series of panels we have for you all today. While I wish we were gathered together in person, it is my pleasure to be here with you virtually. For those who do not know me, I'm Max Crampton Thomas, and I'm the regional editor at Capital Analytics, overseeing the South region. I would also like to add my thanks to everyone who contributed to this year's report. The second edition of Invest Greater Orlando was a success. We are grateful for the wonderful relationships we have developed in the market. I was personally impressed and enthused by the warmth and openness with which our team was met with this year. We received so much support in producing the publication from local executives who are excited to meet and share their insights on the continued growth of Central Florida. The state of Florida is booming, and Greater Orlando is attracting businesses and people like never before. The region offers a business-friendly environment, a favorable tax environment, great weather, excellent geographic location, but most of all, it's the people. From corporate relocations and expansions to historic industry growth, Greater Orlando is on the world stage now more than ever, and for more reasons than ever before. We are conducting 2 polls during today's event to get your thoughts on current things happening in Orlando and in the world of business overall. The first of these will pop up on your screen now, so go ahead and answer the question as to, what is your greatest economic worry at the moment? While you are answering the poll, as a reminder, all registered attendees today will receive complimentary access to read our Invest Greater Orlando 2022 report digitally. Look out for an email that will be sent following this event. Also, we are currently live streaming on our YouTube page, where this event will sit for anyone that would like to revisit it or share these great discussions all around. We have a great lineup for you today with 2 panel discussions, so stay tuned throughout. Now, it is my pleasure today to introduce our first panel, Orlando for All, Leveraging a Growing Economy to Enhance Equity. Moderating this panel today is Gabby Ortegoni, President and CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Gabby, if you could please go ahead and turn on your camera, and I believe you have, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and let you turn it over to you and let you introduce your panelists. Again, everyone, we apologize for the technical difficulties.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's such a pleasure to be part of this incredible session and taking advantage of the wonderful opportunities of connecting from so many different parts through this virtual world, and of course, sharing the stage and the virtual stage with such an incredible panel of very distinguished leaders in our community. Once again, my name is Gabby Ortegoni. I have the pleasure of serving as the President and CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Metro Orlando. And our mission is to drive economic growth by strengthening Hispanic business in Central Florida. And we do that by providing opportunities in commerce, coaching, and community building. And today, this topic, I think, is very important in all 3 areas, but particularly when it comes to really creating and strengthening our community. And as I mentioned, we have a very distinguished panel and very honored to be with them today. So I'm going to start I'm going to get right into it by introducing them and of course, getting into the incredible questions that we have today. So the first panelist is Eric Quinn, who is the CEO of KMI International. Then we also have I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Dietrich Keller, Dean of FAMU College of Law. And then we have also one of our chamber trustees and also a great leader in our community, Tony Jenkins, who is the Central Florida Market President for Florida Blue. So thank you so much for joining us today. And now we're going to get into the questions and the conversation, as our audience, I'm sure, are very eager to learn so much about all your expertise. So setting a little bit more the stage and kind of talking about what has happened basically this past few years in our community. If any one of you or all of you would like to share a comment on in what ways have you observed our Greater Orlando region become more equitable and inclusive as a community?
Well, I'll start off, Gabby, and good morning, everyone. Good to see those that are on the screen. I believe that we had an opportunity as a community when the pandemic began to take hold in the community. If you remember in 2020, the George Floyd incident, I think that this community responded in a very positive way, because there are inequities in any major community. And we as business leaders came together and we chose to get engaged, not to sit back, but we chose to be bold and to come out with a pledge where we instituted some positive statements that would move us forward as a community related to making us a more inclusive community. And this pledge was created by the Orlando Economic Partnership. Business leaders were involved in this. And we had over 140, I think it's more than that actually, over 140 businesses signed this pledge. So to me, that showed what this community is about. That showed that we care for even the underserved communities, the various zip codes. And that to me gave me a positive viewpoint of where we are as a community. Not that we're there yet, we still got a lot of work to do, but this first step to address inequities and to deal with inclusion head on was a positive step by the business community.
Thank you for that. Tony, I'm going to pick up kind of where Tony has left off. It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning. And what I'll say is that I actually joined this community in July of 2020. And so just in the wake of George Floyd's murder and in the midst of the pandemic, and what I found walking in is, precisely what Tony is describing, a real focus on increasing diversity and equity in the community, and in particular around issues of economic thriving, right? And that has been so heartening for me to see, because it's not necessarily what comes to mind immediately when we think about issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? But I do think that it's a really important factor in sort of the larger system of what it means to be a diverse, equitable, inclusive community. And it's a really important factor that I think often gets left out of the conversation. And so I have been really pleased to see that focus on making sure that everyone in this community has an opportunity to thrive.
Yeah, I'd like, just if I could add to that, again, thanks for having me, and it's great to be with this panel. Just to finish what Deidre and Tony have said, I'm very proud of our community that we did come together without any, candidly, without any violence or major disruptions. That's should be understood, but it was not across other communities. So I think Central Florida stood out in that regard as well.
Thank you. And one of the points that I think is very key when it comes to this theme of equality, and of course everything that has to do with the main focus, many of you have been mentioning the focus of in this particular topic. How do you see this right now? The challenge sometimes when it comes to economic growth, especially in the economics that we're living in this right now in this year and in this age, how do you see the economic growth, but also the opportunities of maintaining that standard for an for more opportunities for equality, especially, and in my scenario, I represent a lot of small business owners, diverse business owners, not only Hispanics, but in other areas as well. How do we maintain that balance, because between the economic development and equality?
Yeah, I'll share my thoughts. I think that the first step that we all have to do is listen. Listen, be authentic, and really listen to different perspectives of our community and the real challenges that they're facing. Let's not leave it up to someone else. I want to see our leaders get engaged to personally learn, listen, and to invest to make sure that this community is prosperous for all. One statistic that I unfortunately saw that shared that 60% of an individual's health outcomes is related to the zip code that they grow up in. That should not be. But we know that's the truth. So how can we make sure that we are looking at equitable ways to distribute economic wealth, close those gaps in each of our communities, and not have these disparities of zip codes that are so different in our community?
Yeah, and here I'll focus on my sector, on education, because part of building the foundation for thriving communities is education, right? We know that acquiring education, certainly finishing high school, et cetera, that all puts you in a place where you can launch economically, right? And for us, our legislative mandate is to help diversify the legal profession, That is a huge project, I will tell you. And so it's one I'm constantly trying to motivate people to help me with, right? And so the challenge or the charge I'll give here is what we know from the data is that students who are going to go to law school start thinking about that in middle school and high school. I can't go talk to all the middle school and high school students, right? That's even more true for diverse students. So if we want a more diverse legal profession, I need folks out there encouraging, middle schoolers and high schoolers to think about higher education, to think about getting a graduate degree, a professional degree, right? About entering the profession. And the more sort of seeds like that are planted, the more likely we are to succeed here at the FAMU College of Law in carrying out that legislative mandate to diversify the profession, right? And I think it's a really important one because, Tony just said, we want to really listen to folks about what's going on in their communities. Here at the FAMU College of Law, we try to sort of reach into those communities, those underserved communities, right? And bring to the center the needs of our students who come from those communities so that they can go back and serve them, right? And serve in those communities. And I think when we think about, a sustainable, thriving, economically thriving community, part of what we have to be thinking about in that mix is making sure there's access to education.
And to just add to that, as someone in business, I don't think these two topics are mutually exclusive. I think it's smart. We have an increasingly diverse community, and I think it's smart for business leaders to enroll a more diverse mindset into their C-suites, into their leadership and management. So, as our population and our community continues to be more diverse, I think it's smart for business to develop that talent and encourage the input from across our community. That's just good business. So I think that, starting with good motivation, they don't have to be separate. We don't have to have this initiative and that initiative. It needs to be part of business and part of our organizations.
Mr. Green, and actually that's a great segue to a question that I have for you as the CEO of an organization that took actionable steps after recognizing the disparities in equitable opportunities with initiatives like Enough is Enough program from your company. How would you advise businesses in your sector and outside of your sector who are looking to foster and nurture a business environment and culture that is diverse and inclusive in an organic and thoughtful way?
Yeah, thanks for that. It goes back, as Deidre said, starting with the murder of George Floyd in 2020. This initiated a conversation in our company about what happened, which led us to consider, what should we do about it? And we said enough is enough, which became the name of our initiative. And what we knew is, what we didn't want to do was write up a statement and publish it on social media for no one to read or remember, especially since we knew that we're not qualified. We're not experts on this topic. So, what we didn't want to also do is Google some charity and simply write a check and move on to the next thing. We knew that anything we did required us to act, but we didn't know what to do. We're a small firm here in Orlando. So during the summer of 2020, I was driving in my car listening to Urban View on Sirius XM radio, and there was a program one Sunday morning about HBCUs, and that really sparked an idea in my mind. And those of you who don't know, HBCUs, as Deidre would tell you, is historically Black colleges and universities. And that moment, I literally drove home and Googled the words construction management, because that's our industry, and HBCUs. And what I learned was that of the 107 HBCUs, only 11 offered construction management degrees. And construction management is literally the management of construction projects. So only 11 of the 107 even offered a degree in this field. and that the #1 rated school for construction management among the HBCUs was Florida A&M in Tallahassee. So I knew it was meant to be, when there was that connection. So digging a little deeper, you look at the disparity in our industry, which is again the executive management of construction. We only have 3% Black representation. And while that's bad, we learned that the design community, architects, is 1% represented by the Black community. And the same as commercial real estate is 1%. So we have projects that are being developed and designed and built for people that, for a very diverse community that will use these buildings, but it's being, the whole project is being run by people that may not understand the use of the project. So you say, what can we do? Can we lend our expertise, and what can we do about this? So our industry association called CMAA, they have a strong student chapter program, and we decided to initiate and plant a student chapter of the CMAA at the FAMU in Tallahassee, and we partnered with them, and it was simply a phone call to the dean of the School of Architecture, and it went from there. And currently we offer internships, we mentor students, guest lecture, and help the faculty and students in any way. And it just started with doing something. So we're partners with the program, and we're very excited that it continues today.
Thank you for sharing that. And Ms. Keller, now for you in terms of education, and you mentioned a little bit of this earlier, but just to go deeper, as the nation becomes more focused on equitable education solutions and opportunity for our diverse population, the efforts to increase access to affordable education have taken center stage. From your perspective, what do you believe are the most viable solutions to increasing access to affordable education for all, especially as it pertains to post-bachelor education opportunities like law school?
Right. So Eric has given me the perfect segue, actually. So thank you for that, Eric. Because really, to increase access to affordable education, we need folks to invest, right, in many of the ways that Eric has just noted, right? So investment is financial, but it's also time and talent, right? And so to the extent that you have those to offer, your companies, your employees, et cetera, have those to offer, engage with the higher ed institutions around you. UCF is right here. We are right here in Orlando. We are Orlando's schools. And so invest in us. And if you want to figure out how to do that, we're open to having that conversation with you. It's really just a question of reaching out to us and letting us know, what you're interested in doing and how you can be of assistance to us and to our students, and really partner with us, right? Because just like all of the businesses here, we have an interest in seeing this community thrive, right? And so we can be partners in that thriving. So really, it's a question of investment. As we thrive, the community thrives. I'll give you one good example of that. We have a part-time program here that really serves folks who are out in the community working full-time, right? Invest in your employees' higher education needs. You have a paralegal who's really great and has a desire to go to law school. Invest in her education, right? We've had so many really successful graduates who came through the program that way because their employers invested in their further development, and that served the employer, it served the employee, it serves the community. So those are some ways that I think we can really get energized to do this work of providing access together.
Thank you. And Tony, now going to you, Florida Blue has a reputation of having a strong culture of innovation. From your view, how has the current landscape increased collaboration between the healthcare ecosystem and related industries here in Central Florida? And how this collaboration resulted in innovation that is beneficial to the overall community, especially as it relates to addressing disparities in access and outcomes of care?
So let me start off by saying that some people still view us as an insurance company, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Florida Blue. Our mission statement has changed over the years, and our mission statement is very simple: helping people and communities achieve better health. Nothing about premiums, nothing about health insurance there. Insurance is important, but we have a holistic plan to help all of our community achieve better health. And we know that this is done through various connection points. We can't do it alone. We need partners. We need hospital systems. We need business leaders. A couple of examples in how we have shown up. Number one, we don't view diversity and inclusion as an HR program. This is core to our business success. When you think about it, we have 2 counties in our region, Orange County and Osceola County, that are minority majority counties. So when you think about that, that means that the people that we're serving, we've got to understand how to best meet their needs. What are their preferences? How do we understand those communities? So we need to engage with those individuals, with those families, get closer to them. And I'll end with 2 examples. Enterprising Black Orlando was a great initiative that brought in different partners, the Central Florida Foundation, the Urban League, the African American Chamber of Commerce, Black Business Investment Fund. Our foundation partnered with the Wells Fargo organization and significantly contributed to this Enterprising Black Orlando initiative to make sure that we were addressing the economic wealth gap in the Black community. That's just one example. You heard I said earlier, businesses can't stand on the sidelines. Leaders can't stand on the sidelines. We need to get engaged. And the other point I'll share is that we just hired a Chief Health Equity Officer for the organization to help us not only look at disparities, but take a look at other aspects of equity as well. So we're on this journey. We want to make sure that we're addressing the entire ecosystem, not just related to health insurance, but related to how we can help this community thrive, become healthier, to meet all of the needs of its citizens.
Thank you, Tony. And I have a question for all of you. When it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, one of the things that we, in many of the discussions we have had with so many leaders, is it goes beyond just the race, the color of our skin. It covers so many different areas that sometimes it may become challenging for many different corporations or even small business owners to really identify how can they create a balance with different programming so everyone feels included, not just a specific segment of our community. And as an example, with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we have a very robust supplier diversity program. And even though we are here and our mission is to primarily strengthen the Hispanic community and to represent the voice of the Hispanic businesses and professionals, this particular program that we do is open to the entire diverse community. We don't focus it just on being Hispanic, on being a specific race, or being a specific skin color, or from a specific country. So we actually open it to so many other segments of our community to ensure that is truly diverse and that is truly that is equal for everyone. So how is your companies, are your different companies handling this, some maybe challenge, or what recommendations do you have for those who are creating these new programs and really trying to emerge as much as possible in this discussion and take real action?
Yeah, I'll start this. I think that's such an important point that you made about, it's a point about inclusion, right? And so here I'll say, the FAMU College of Law and actually HBCU law schools historically have always been inclusive in this way. There is sort of this misconception that HBCUs are just for Black students, but actually FAMU Law is one of the most diverse schools in the country. So it serves a population that is over 70% students of color. right? That is in any given year from 40 to 50% Black, but lots of Hispanic students, Asian students, Native American students, you name it, we have it. And then in terms of diversity, more broadly than racial or national origin diversity, we have students who are diverse politically. We have students who are diverse religiously, you name it. Really, any kind of diversity you're looking for, you can find at the FAMU College of Law and at the HBCU law schools across the country. So I think that's such an important part of thinking about what it means to be a diverse organization and to really have the value of diversity, hold that as a value of your organization. You can't really do that without the inclusion piece, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's such an important point that you made. How do you do it? I think you have to be intentional about it, right? I think it has to be you have to be true to that value, right? In what you do and not just in what you say. And it does present challenges, right? Because inclusive communities and diverse communities are communities where there is necessarily going to be, some disagreement, some difficult conversations, right? So you have to be aware of that and prepared to address issues as they arise.
Thank you.
Let me chime in here. Thank you for that, Deidre. I think that leaders need to make sure that they are getting the right guidance, direction. Don't feel like you have to do this alone. Get expert help, get expert advice. This can be a tricky road going down this path for some individuals. Make sure that you are aligning yourself with someone that can lead you down the right path. There are incredible experts in our community on this topic. Reach out to them. They're incredible resources. Our company has always aligned ourselves with talent to make sure that we understand the legal aspects of it, the community aspects, the economic aspects of it, and not trying to be an inside out where we tell the world what we want to know. No, we want to be an outside in. We want to hear what the right perspectives are. So I would say there are resources out there. Use them. Experts that are talented.
Yeah, just like to add what Tony and pick up on a word that Deidre uses, which is intentional. And I think that anything like this starts at the top with leadership. And if leadership is committed and intentional, you don't have to get everything right. You don't have to do everything. Just be intentional about that this is important to your organization and do something. And you may make some mistakes. That's okay. Don't let that stop you from doing something. Reach out, talk to people, get information, but be intentional. This is important, and incorporate this in everything you do as an organization. And if you make a mistake, it's fine. Better than doing nothing.
Thank you so much. And I think that's an incredible way to end this panel. I think that advice of definitely being intentional, being genuine. And I think when you really care, when you really show that you're trying, that you're working hard on understanding the diversity in our community and what that really means, not just for each one of us, but of course, how everybody else feels and understands diversity as well, because we have to see how other people perceive it and how other people really want to be included in this conversation. I think that that's always appreciated. And of course, I want to say once again, thank you to all of you, not only for being in this panel today, but for the incredible work that you do in the community. Tony, of course, I personally have done a lot of things very closely with you and of course with Florida Blue. And we are so grateful for what you do in our entire community to promote this very important topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And thank you so much to this great organization for giving us the opportunity to have this discussion. I wish we could have at least 45 more minutes, at least, to be able to go more in details. But I know we have another great session after this. But once again, thank you. Thank you to the audience for participating. And I look forward to seeing all of you virtually or hopefully in person very soon.
Absolutely. And if you guys can just hold for 1 second, we're going to take a quick picture. Perfect. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you all again to Gabby, Eric, Deidre, and Tony for being with us today and for that excellent discussion on leveraging a growing economy to enhance equity. Thank you to our audience for answering our first poll. Again, the results will be revealed at the end of the event. The second poll will pop up now, so go ahead and answer as to, you took the day off. How are you spending it? As a reminder, once again, all registered attendees today will receive complimentary access to read our Invest Greater Orlando 2022 report digitally. Look out for an email that will be sent following this event. Following the next panel, Peter Cranis, Executive Director for Florida's Space Coast Office of Tourism, will be giving the closing speech. I would now like to introduce our second panel for today's event, Uncertain Landscape, Managing Investment Expectations and Macroeconomic Challenges. Our moderator for this panel is Mr. Peter Meyer, the Central Florida Market President for TD Bank. Peter, if you can go ahead and turn on your camera and your audio.
Good afternoon.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you joining us, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you to introduce your panelists.
Great. Good afternoon. I was going to say good morning, but I think we're close enough to the afternoon where I can say good afternoon. It's wonderful to be here. I'm very excited. And I was really excited to hear the last panel really just made an impression. It was great discussion. I'm glad that we're all part of that. When Casey started the day off and identified, Orlando as a meta center and unbelievably real, it really resonated with me. I have been in banking for a long, long time. And I have been in Orlando for a little over 4 years now. And from the very beginning, when I got here, I was very impressed with the public-private partnership and how there are no discussions about growth without, okay, but how does that impact everybody and how does everybody take advantage of that? Those discussions are not had everywhere, and I think it says a lot about Orlando. I think Orlando has been, and I believe will continue to be ahead of the curve and be a model for how do you grow in the right way. I call that thoughtful growth, and TD Bank has seen that. We're making significant investments in the Orlando area, and we will continue to. And our way of growing is to make sure that the communities that we're in grow with us. So, getting to this panel discussion is uncertain landscape. Now, I think when we first started talking about this probably a month or two ago, I think we were all saying, okay, well, we've had 2 years or 2.5 years of pandemic and lockdowns. How do you adjust? And that's the uncertain landscape. Well, yes, it was. But now we've seen a lot more challenges. It seems like each week we have something, whether it's on the supply side or whether we've got rising interest rates. So, the home ownership, the demand and the supply and that. So we really live in challenging times, or should we say we live in interesting times, right? So we have a great panel of professionals to talk about this and to, really talk about how do you identify, okay, what changed? How do we, what are the changes that we need to make? What are the opportunities? And we have great professionals that are going to help us answer that. And let me introduce them. First, we have Joseph Burt, founder of Certified Financial Group. We have Russ Hunt, CEO of Skyway Capital Markets, and Chris Hearn, founder and CEO of Fountainhead Commercial Group. Each one of them has a different perspective, I think, on what industry they're from, but I think we're all looking at the economy and saying, okay, where are we going? What's going to happen? So I'll throw this first one out to all of you, specific to your own organizations. The landscape changed, over the last 12 months. It's certainly changed over the last 2.5 years, I think, and it continues to. But what were the major challenges that you felt your organization, your teams had to overcome? And what do you see as the opportunities? We all know that in tough times, there's always opportunities. So I'll turn that over and maybe Joe, you take us out first on that.
Sure. Yeah, the main challenge we had, of course, I'm sure as the other panelists is how to deal with the change of dealing with clients in the pandemic. We were considered, as I'm sure my fellow panelists were, as a essential business. And we stayed open during that period of time with the sanitation protocols and doing Zoom meetings with our clients, bringing clients in the office, offering them masks and all that routine that we went through. And it's hard to believe what that life was like when you just look back, a short year and a half ago, and how we all struggled through it and how we all survived it. But it was a challenge. But what it did is I think it made people really focus on the here and now. People all of a sudden were at home. People are now rethinking their career path. People were rethinking, do I really want to go back to where I was working? Do I really want to go back to the office at all? And so what's happened in our situation, in our company, is we've had an influx of clients who are retiring or making changes in their careers, and for the first time are focusing intently on their own personal financial plans. So for us, it's been a two-edged sword. It's been difficult to deal with on that side, but on the other side, it's been good for our business and our profession, frankly.
Interesting. Russ?
I would say, we took the opportunity to try to merge the best of pre-pandemic operations with post-pandemic operations. And one of the things that really helped us was the ability to attract talent, not just locally, but also in places where we never would have been able to attract talent from an employee standpoint. And we've been able to really incorporate, whether it be remote working with our employees or remote contact with our clients, to incorporate that into kind of more of a daily routine. Not that, and again, we really think of it as being a combination versus an either or. And that's been really, really helpful for us as we, manage through uncertainty, and we think about growth. We think about, how our clients have approached that as well. And last year, I think most of our clients felt that they felt the tailwinds and felt a bounce post the gut punch of the initial 2020 environment. So, there are a lot of pluses, and as you said, with uncertainty, there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, it certainly seems that you use the word tailwinds. Yeah, it seemed as though we had some tailwinds behind us, and then we just ran right into another storm.
That's right.
But I guess that's the environment, high speed, world we live in. Chris, how about you guys? Mute. You're on mute.
The post-pandemic challenges.
Yeah, you would think we all know how to do it, right? Yeah, we still keep ourselves on mute every once in a while. No, I was saying our experience is a little bit different than probably a lot of folks, which is we're a small business lender. We pivoted our entire business to during the pandemic to make Paycheck Protection Program loans, and we were the 6th most active last year, in fact. So for us, we had the usual concerns about the virus and kids working, being at home, and virtual schooling, and all that sort of stuff. We were dealing with that, but we had to stay focused on trying to help save small businesses. So it was a very unique time for us. We've pivoted back to regular business, and to echo one of Joe's points, I am seeing a lot of people more interested in entrepreneurship, a lot of business acquisitions that are starting to take place, both of which are things that we finance. And so I think we're just entering a different era, perhaps. People are not as satisfied staying in large corporations, perhaps more interested in going off on their own and fulfilling that dream they've had for a long time. And it's going to be interesting. However, as we approach a very inflationary period, that does give me some pause and some concern about our borrowers and prospective borrowers and how they're going to be able to handle the rising expenses of their borrowing costs. So it's just a lot of needles to thread at the moment.
Yeah. So let's stick with you for a minute, Chris. So your organization is the largest PPP lender in Central Florida, and one of the largest based in Southeast.
That's right.
I think you're the 6th largest in the country. So what were some of the primary lessons that you learned right away, and some that a year into it, you said, well, oh, wow, that's a change. And then, how do these changes inform the way you and your team approach your loan programs now in a post-COVID environment?
Well, the first thing I would say is we couldn't have done the amount of loans that we did without, being tech enabled. And I think, the banking industry was already moving towards utilizing a lot more technology than they have perhaps over the last, say, 20, 30 years. And I think this just accelerated things substantially. And we're still taking some of the things that we learned during the pandemic and applying that to our regular lending going forward. So that's the positive. Some of the negatives, I mean, we don't have enough time today for me to go over all the anti-fraud measures that we dealt with, or some of the salacious stories we have about some of the things that we saw. But it was, it's just, we're entering a very different era right now. It's pretty exciting. I don't know that the typical consumer is as loyal as they once were to their financial institution. So that's an adjustment that folks in our industry are going to have to understand and have to counter. So there's just a lot going on, but it's certainly some of the lessons are using technology in a much better way. To echo one of Russ's comments, we were partly work from home prior to the pandemic, and now we're about 90% work from home. And just to have that kind of flexibility for our workforce, I think is critical, because it gives us access to talent, pretty much anywhere in the country, which is pretty exciting. And it's something that we can do as a national lender that not all the community banks or regional banks are allowed to do, because they typically have to hire people within their own footprint. So those are a couple of the lessons that we learned.
Yeah, I can certainly attest to the fact that the PPP program taught us what we didn't know about technology, what we had to learn pretty quickly. And it was like changing a tire on a car that was going 60 miles an hour. So, but we made it through. And I think there were a lot of good lessons that came from that. So, Joe, with historically, low interest rates over the last few years, almost for an entire generation, right? And they're beginning to rise again, inflation. What are you telling your clients to what they should be doing, what they should be staying away from, and how is your strategy changing on that?
Well, as you said, Peter, we've enjoyed the zero interest rates for a long period of time, which gave a lot of money to risk assets, and we've enjoyed a great stock market. And people have seen their portfolios increase dramatically. And in the last 6 months or so, we've seen a reversal. And that's really a function of what's going on in the economy. When you look at inflation and then what the Fed is doing, raising interest rates. So the risk off is becoming more and more prevalent. And so people have to adjust their thinking and recognize that we're not going to be able to enjoy double-digit returns on our portfolios. In our profession, the way we do it is we look at planning first. And if you have a good plan, you get through these kinds of times. And with rising interest rates, you have to recognize that what you don't want to do is go long on bonds, simply because you'll get hammered if you need the money. So you need to have your portfolio positioned in short duration kinds of investments. And you need to have enough dry powder, that is cash, to get you through the tough times and not have to tap into your portfolio when the stock market is down. Unfortunately, many investors, particularly the young, have never seen a bear market, a prolonged bear market, if you will. The pandemic was a slap in the face, but we recovered very quickly thanks to what all the money the government pumped into the economy. But most people, younger people in particular, have not seen a prolonged bear market. And we could be looking at a period of 12 to 18 months when returns are flat or to down. However, that being said, the long term is up. It always has been. It's just a matter of getting through these times. And I think the important thing for people to recognize is that we will recover. And what you don't want to do, and this goes for virtually everybody, is to make emotional decisions. You don't want to bail out of your investments if you're holding good investments. And if you're contributing to your 401k right now, your 403b, your 457, this is an opportune time for you because you're buying more shares with every paycheck. Don't move to the sidelines. Don't move your money to the money market account. Don't wait till the sun starts shining again. Continue to put money away because this is the time to buy. As we say, the stock market is the only place that when things go on sale, people run out of the market. And this is the time to be buying. And that's the important thing to remember. Investing is long-term. Investing is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
That's good advice. I think, don't jump onto the sidelines. Stay in, but don't take too much risk, right?
Exactly.
And as you said, have enough dry powder. You talk about a couple of generations that really didn't see anything above 3% And I remember when I bought my first house, it was 8.75% mortgage. And I thought it was a deal. It was a steal at the time. So, sometimes I look at this and go, oh, come on, really?
Mine was 12.5%.
Oh my goodness.
Adjustable.
Yeah, but I'll bet you you made money on that house.
I did.
See that, and that's it. Don't stay out of the game. Get in the game, but get in the game the right way. So Russ, specific to M&A activity, which is what you guys do, in this landscape, there must be a lot of concern on the parts of people planning to do mergers and acquisitions. How has your strategy changed, or sort of your message to clients, if it has at all?
Yeah, as it relates to M&A, I think uncertainty is one of the biggest impacts in terms of a negative impact. We've got taxes rising, we've got interest rates rising. Those all have impacts, but uncertainty and lack of clarity, has a really significant impact on, how people think about, both from a buyer standpoint and a seller standpoint. So what we're doing with our clients is we invest a lot of time with our clients in helping them understand options and, what the impact of those options are. And, our advice to clients is, they think through and have a really thought through plan about what the impact of rising interest rates has on your business, what the impact of inflation has in your business in terms of materials, in terms of labor, and understand what the opportunities are and what those create. And if you think about all those things and they come back and they have a near-term negative impact, maybe you think differently about going and having discussions regarding M&A in this environment. Or if you think about how those opportunities and how you can take advantage of them today have a better long-term impact on you, maybe you pursue them. So I think it's really more about understanding, what the impacts are, having a really good understanding of your business, and just knowing that who knows what this environment is going to be like, but there's always another end. There's an outlook to the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. And I think some business owners have gone through two periods in their ownership where they've been gut punched in terms of the financial crisis and then the pandemic. And, they want to understand, what do we do now? And I think, keeping a course of understanding, what the valuation impacts are going to be in the next 6 months, 12 months are important. Right now, what we're seeing is there is a gulf. There's the division, divide still between seller expectations and buyer expectations. That's got a little bit wider. And that's, certainly understandable given that interest rates are rising, will have an impact on, financing costs. But for great businesses, I think there'll still be great businesses and with all the noise in the market, we still have a great economy. We still have got a lot of great momentum behind us and many things. So with some of the negative things we all hear in the press, if you take that away, the bottom 90% of it really is still very strong and positive.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think that we have a lot of business owners on the phone on the conference with us here. And I think that listening to all three of you, what really came to mind was sort of the advice side of, make sure you have good partners with you. Make sure you have people, right? You surround yourself with people who not just know what your business is, but what you want to do, what your aspirations are, and how they can help you so that you have a sounding board, and that you can take advice from people who are good at what they do. I wanted to kind of get off the finance thing for a minute, because what I heard you guys talking about before was, we were a little bit remote before, now we're a lot remote now, and the challenges of being remote. And I think this is of interest to a lot of businesses. How much remote do you do? And, I hear younger generations will say, well, why do I ever have to go into the office? I can do everything that I can from home. And people have definitely restarted or re-engineered or reimagined their lives in terms of, I really don't want to be in the office 5 days a week. Why do I need to do that? How do you balance that? How do you keep your culture alive if it's all on a Zoom call, or do we need a mix of where people get together?
I can speak for us. I mean, we've got a handful of, I call them the hardcores, that insist on going to the office. They don't like to work from home, and that's fine. We certainly allow that. keeping the culture going. I mean, I think when we are in person, we try to spend time together. We've certainly ramped up our employee trainings substantially, which, that's typically one of the reasons I think we could all agree that people liked pre-pandemic people actually being in the office, because that's kind of where the magic happens. You look over someone's shoulder, you sit next to someone, you're able to mentor employees a little bit better. So that's difficult to do when you're on a Zoom call. Obviously, I mean, we were all attempting to do it, but that's one of the reasons why we've ramped up our trainings for all of our employees. We communicate a lot. I try actually not to do as many Zoom calls with my employees because they're all on Zoom calls all throughout the day, all the time. And there's such a thing as Zoom fatigue. I think all of us know. So, but then we've also had just general once a month, full transparency calls, basically is what we call them. And, people ask me anything and, the direction of the firm, or why do we do this? Why do we do that? Or a variety of different things. So I think the key on all of this is just, making sure you're communicating, making sure your managers are properly understanding what the employees are doing. I mean, for years, I don't really care where someone works from or what time they start or what time they stop, so long as they get the job done. And that's what's critical. And that's what I tell my managers. You can work it out with the employees. Do you want to have a hybrid? Do you want them in the office all the time? Or are they going to be fully remote? It's up to you. Just make sure they get the job done correctly.
We may be somewhat unique in that when the pandemic hit, of course, we gave our people the opportunity to work from home or come in the office, and virtually everybody came to the office. And that's still the case today. I think culture is critical. Your company is only as good as your people, and certain industries certainly can have remote and never have to have a face-to-face meeting with their staff. But in our industry, because we deal with people's personal finances, we have 15 talented certified financial planners, and there's synergy that we get from each other, learning and bouncing ideas off, and the hallway conversations. To us, that's critical, and our employees enjoy that. And so, although they have the opportunity to work from home, everybody comes to the office every day, and I think it's a great experience. Now, in terms of our clients, we have clients all over the country, some of whom we've never met face to face, but thanks to technology today, that's the only way to communicate, and we welcome that because that's a way to broaden your horizons with technology. But in terms of our business, I think it's important. Our company, it's important for us to come into the office and to continue to grow that culture.
Yeah, Joe, we're really similar in that regard. And I think, being able to have flexibility is great, but, we more, just not just with our employees internally, but also with our clients, many of them are just perfectly fine being on Zoom calls, but there's a lot that is missed sometimes without being face-to-face. And we think that's important. The hallway conversations. I personally have been a mix. I've been, probably in the office less than most people, but they're always, the leaf blowers and the, and dogs barking sometimes get a little annoying. So, but the office is an important part of the environment, and the people and the connection certainly is as well.
Right. Well, thanks for that. I have one last sort of go around, just the takeaway of the day here. In what ways do you see Orlando as a region collectively? How do we continue to be more resilient, and how do we continue to build that future for all that I spoke about earlier? And certainly the panel before us was focused on how do you feel about that, and what do you think companies and maybe your own company is looking at? Chris.
Well, I mean, I think all of us know Orlando is a wonderful place to be from a climate standpoint, Florida from a taxation standpoint. Much like the earlier panel, I mean, Orlando is a very welcoming business community in my experience. I've been here almost 25 years myself. I'm not originally from here. There's not a lot of us that are originally from here. But in order to do that, to move to a community, it really helps, obviously, when people are welcoming, when people are very hospitable, when they're trying to get things done. So I think Orlando is going to continue to do that. I don't see why we wouldn't. But I think, as a community, we need to continue to focus on strong job growth, supporting the job creators in our community. whatever the social justice matters are or political matters that might be, at the end of the day, I have always thought the best solution is making sure someone has a job first and foremost, so they can actually feed their family. And then we can focus on some of the other stuff. So I think that's really critical. And we've certainly led the way for a long time in Central Florida. I don't see that really abating much. So I do still think our best days are ahead of us, and that's very exciting. And you know, we continue to welcome people here all the time, and I hope they, you know, the folks from the Northeast and the Midwest keep coming here, and we'll even take some folks from the West Coast if they want to come here too.
Anything on?
Sure. So we're based in Tampa, but we have a lot of clients in Orlando, and spend, we think the development of the I-4 corridor between Tampa and Orlando, the opportunities that continue to exist are just, they become exponential. And I was just in Orlando. I took my family over to Universal this past weekend, and thriving economy, and it's amazing the number of people that are there, and you see the growth around not just the theme parks, but growth around in the business community environment. But with our view is there's still really a lot of room to grow, and it really has got great potential, continues to be great potential for attracting growing businesses that are still here, they're here, and attracting new companies and new talent as well.
Sure. And Joe?
Peter, I think the tax climate that we have here in Florida, with no estate taxes, no income taxes, is just a phenomenal place for a person to retire to or to start a business. When you look at the opportunities that exist here today, and I'm seeing it with people coming to town that are leaving the high tax states and the bad weather to go with it, that I-4 corridor, as Russ mentioned, there's tremendous opportunities here. Land is cheap. Real estate is still cheap. People are coming down with money falling out of their pockets to buy our homes, to take advantage of what we've enjoyed for years. And so I think this is a great place, because when you have people coming to town looking for opportunities, it's a lot better than people leaving town with their furniture behind them. And I think we have that here in Florida. And I think Central Florida, from Tampa to Daytona and everything in between, including Orlando, we have great opportunity here.
Great.
So, as leaders and professionals, one last thing, we'll wrap this up on a note of one sentence advice to all the other business owners and people out there. Russ, why don't we start with you?
Stay focused. Stay focused. That would be the advice. Maybe that's just one word, not a sentence, but stay focused.
Well, no, but yeah, stay focused and don't get in the weeds with everything that's going on. Don't be afraid to move forward, I guess, right? Joe?
Well, our business is built on people, as most businesses are, and we've learned what you want to do is hire for character.
Okay. Chris, final thoughts?
I tell business owners all the time to stay lean for this current storm we're seeing, but realize that the sun shines on the other side of it, and things are going to get better, and we're going to be much better off once we get to the other side. And it's coming. I really think this will be a short recession.
I couldn't agree with you all more. And I do think that if we've seen ourselves get through the last 2.5 years of the challenges, and we got through them, I'm not saying it's a piece of cake, but we'll figure it out, and we'll get through it. There is the sun does rise at some point. Right. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for being here today. I was very happy to be part of this conversation and the conversation for the whole day. And I want to thank our hosts and all the sponsors today. And I guess I'm going back to Andrea. We going back to you, or?
So no, if everyone can just take a quick second and smile.
Okay. Let me take these.
And perfect.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for your perspectives. We are certainly in unprecedented times, and I appreciate all of your input. Quickly, before I present our closing keynote, I would like to remind everyone that the Orlando Report will be officially available on our website to subscribers starting today. And if you would like to request a physical copy, please contact us at contact@capitalaa.com. We will start our research for the next edition of the Orlando 2023 report. So at the start of next year. So in the meantime, if you would like to nominate an interviewee for either the report or our next event, please also contact that same email, contact@capitalaa.com. We will still be reporting on the Orlando area, so you can sign up to our newsletter at our website, www.capitalanalyticsassociates.com. You can sign up to the newsletter, which is complimentary and comes out once a week. And don't forget, Max will be back after our closing keynote to announce the results of the poll at the conclusion of today's event. And now it is my pleasure to welcome one of my previous guests to the Invest Insights video series, Peter Cranis, the Executive Director of Florida's Space Coast Office of Tourism. Peter, please turn on your audio and your video.
He's muted.
I think you might be muted. Nope. Still working on that volume, I think.
Okay, here we go.
There we are. Peter, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you to Capital Analytics. Can someone confirm they can see my screen?
Yes, you're golden.
Perfect, perfect. Very good. All right. And it sounds like you can hear me as well. So, been an interesting couple of years. I think we've all learned some things. And, in addition to my current role, I've also been a college professor in the past, teaching out at UCF as an adjunct for many, many years. And so whenever I experience things in the work environment, I try to figure out how can we take that and learn from that and adapt, that to the future. And so, I think we learned about managing in a crisis. I mean, there was probably no bigger crisis that the tourism industry has ever felt than COVID. No playbook. We've been through hurricanes, we've been through economic downturns, 9/11. Nothing prepared us for 2 years almost of being shut down and having to change the way we do business. And I think I just try to capture in a very brief period here over the next few minutes what maybe we learned and some things that we did that I think will prepare us hopefully for the next crisis, because that is the world we live in. Just a little bit about the impact. We were affected in Brevard County, particularly, $250 million in lost revenue. We went from just about 3% unemployment up to over 11.5%. We typically, in a typical quarter, we rent about 600,000 hotel rooms. That was down to half of that in Q2 of 20. So really nothing that we've ever seen that's negatively impacted tourism for as long a period as time. And we kind of look at it as it was about a 12-month impact for us. So what did we really do? Well, when something hits, when catastrophe hits, you kind of have to take a step back and regroup, especially if it's an unknown. That might mean ceasing some business operations, ceasing some of the marketing activities that you do, but it's a time to take a pause and really stop business as usual and look at what is happening around you. Listening is critical. Listening to both your peers, to staff, to industry experts, to industry organizations. And I always say, watch the news, but really filter it. The news is driven by extreme. So when you're watching the news, you have to put that filter on it that, they're talking the extreme because they're trying to get eyeballs. But there may be good information, but you just have to filter through that. Probably one of the biggest things for me, and I'm a research person, I'm a data-oriented person, but data is your friend. And that doesn't mean just going to secondary sources of information, which there were a lot of, by the way, during COVID for all different business lines, but particularly in the tourism sector. But, conduct your own research, conduct primary research to really understand your consumer and your audience. That is critical. And then finally, communicate, if not over communicate. When you're in crisis, information is money. And so you have to really push that and make sure that your staff, particularly your staff, the industry, your consumers, they're receiving updates, they're getting information regularly. It actually changed the way that we communicated with a lot of our partners. And I think it put us in a position where we're perceived as the industry experts as a result of the communication that we were putting out during that time period. So what did we end up doing? Well, we did have a pause. We pulled people out of the office, sent them home in March of 20. We made sure everybody was up and running and could operate and function from an at-home environment. But we brought people back with safety protocols into the office in May. And then we turned around and we got back to marketing as soon as we could, meaning we looked at what the consumer was telling us. We didn't just say, oh, it feels right. No, let's ask the consumer and have them tell us when they're ready to hear our messages again. So that's where some of that research came in. And we were able to do that by June of 20. And then the other thing we did is, as we were coming a little bit out of the summer into the fall, we actually hired a new advertising agency, and we developed a whole new brand campaign as we went into 2021 so that we could reposition ourselves. And then we continued to monitor and conduct research throughout the process. I'm just going to share a TV spot that we ran, and we're running some variations of during that time.
Hey, Peter, the audience can't see or hear anything. It's still the same screen.
Okay, I'm hearing that was not visible. I apologize for that. We'll just move on from there. So what happened, just to kind of wrap up here? Well, we've had 13 months of consecutive records for those given months, including the best month ever, March of 22, our highest tourist development tax collections. Talked about rooms being rented. We had the highest number of rooms being rented ever in Q1 of this year. And then, of course, unemployment, everybody knows we're down at an all-time low. So really, really fantastic business results. And, part of that, obviously, I think was due to listening. It was due to obviously the environment. People are ready to travel again. I think we're going to have probably the best summer ever. And then as we look forward for our area, particularly, we see nothing but bright skies ahead from a tourism perspective. Obviously, concerns about gas, concerns about recession, but we see a huge building of hotel inventory in our county right now. The port is going to have the highest number of home ported ships. We're the second busiest cruise port in the country. They're going to have 13 ships by the end of this year. Our local airport has been doing fantastic. We've got several lines of new service with TUI coming from the UK. Allegiant is a new carrier in the domestic market. Launches, we're the #1 destination anywhere in the world for launches. That's going to continue. That's only going to grow. So we're projecting 22 will be a better year than 21. And we'll see where we go from there, but a lot of new exciting things. So just to really recap, when a crisis hits, take a step back, assess where you are, use research and data, they're your friends, listen and communicate, and then take decisive action, formulate those plans based on the evidence, and use your past knowledge and experience, trust yourself. And then just as you go, and don't forget to celebrate those wins along the way. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate the time and look forward to hopefully seeing everybody in person the next time. Thank you, Capital Analytics.
Well, thank you again, Peter. We really appreciate your words. And again, I want to thank all of our speakers and panelists who joined us here today. We're so appreciative to have such an incredible group participate today in our second annual Invest Greater Orlando Leadership Summit. Now, I want to take a moment to share the results of today's polls. So on poll number 1, when we asked, what is your greatest economic worry at the moment? 73% of you said inflation, 16% said housing, 9% said the midterms elections effect on the market, and another 1% of you said something else. For the second poll, and Peter, you may be interested in this one, you took the day off. How are you spending it? Well, with 43%, the winner was taking a screen break and driving to Canaveral National Seashore. 20% exploring one of the Orlando's world-renowned theme parks. 30% something else, and then 7% catching an Orlando Magic game at the Amway Center. So I want to appreciate everyone for participating in those polls, and thank you to everyone who shared their thoughts today. I'd like to once again thank our incredible partners and sponsors for making their support and making today possible. Our gold sponsors, Florida Blue, Fountainhead, One Florida Bank, our silver sponsor, TD Bank, and our honored partners, FAMU College of Law, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, KMI International, NAI Realvest, Space Coast, Skyway Capital Markets, East Orlando Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Federation of Florida, iDrive Chamber of Commerce, Orlando Hospitality Alliance, and the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce. We thank you all for your continued support. As a reminder, our team will be sharing a link following today's conference so everyone will have access to the digital edition of our publication. We are also close to finalizing our second and fourth editions of Invest Raleigh Durham and Invest Palm Beach. If you or someone you know should be interviewed for these publications or would like to be, please reach out to me at mcthomas@capitalaa.com. And while this year's Greater Orlando publication might be complete, we at Capital Analytics continue to expand our reach year after year. Stay tuned for more news and updates on this and other markets we cover by registering for our newsletters at capitalanalyticsassociates.com or by writing to contact@capitalaa.com. Thank you again for joining us today. To our virtual attendees, to our sponsors, participants, and to everyone else that contributed in making Invest Greater Orlando 2022 such a tremendous success. Thank you and take care.